morning, good afternoon, everybody. Happy to be part of the surf part of the conversation this morning, and look forward to working together with Mark on the turf side to follow. In my background, 35 years in the food industry, totally at the intersection of food trends, innovation, technology, food security, nutrition, health, and sustainability. And I'm excited to talk to you about Blue Nalu as a solution that is clearly a manifestation of all these different opportunities that are so critical to our planet today. Next slide. What Blue Nalu is all about is some of you may be familiar with the term cell-based foods or cell-cultured or cultivated. There's many names for this category, but Mark and I will both be talking to you about this category as relates to both seafood and meat products. Our mission is to be the global leader in another term for the cellular aquaculture, providing consumers with great tasting seafood products, healthy for people, humane for sea life, and sustainable for our planet, where we're literally making seafood products directly from fish cells that will be great tasting, trusted, safe, and free of mercury environmental contaminants. Next slide. So I refer to cellular aquaculture. What we're talking about in this whole category, in this process, is literally isolating cells directly from fish. It might be muscle cells, fat cells, or connective tissue cells. In our case, doing that without genetic engineering, controlling that proliferation and differentiation, and ultimately creating fish tissue. So this category was once called in vitro, because just like we're making a human body outside of the body, if you will. In our case, we're not making a living fish, we're making fish tissue, but similarly made outside of the body. And in this case, using large-scale bioreactors. So this looks to the eye like a microbrewery, but instead of beer or wine, we're actually looking at muscle cells of fish or fat cells or other appropriate cells that might be utilized. And these cells are then combined using extrusion or 3D printing to actually make a product that has the same nutritional and quality and functional attributes as conventional seafood. Next slide. So this is not just a novel idea. This is something that organizations like A.T. Kearney have identified as not just a global, but transformative. They're actually predicting by the year 2040, just 20 years from now, that conventional meat will go from today close to 100% of total meat consumption, proposed to be 90% by 2025, and become unconventional, representing 40% global market share by 2040, with culture meat or cell-based meat, as we call it, representing 35% global market share, growing at a 41% annual growth rate, with plant-based products. You might be familiar with Impossible and Beyond Meats and other products in this space. That's called novel vegan meats, representing 25%. So literally 60% of market share represented by cell-based and plant-based products over the next 2 decades is this particular projection. Next slide. Why is this so important? Obviously, we all know that consumers around the world are just continually stressing our oceans due to the increasing global demand for seafood. Our challenge is obviously keeping up with that supply. Overfishing, illegal fishing, acidification, rising temperatures, environmental pollutants, viruses, algae blooms. So some of the many things that our population is doing to our planet, but also things that might be caused as part of our global vulnerability, viruses and other things that could certainly affect our seafood supply. I describe our global seafood supply as the most vulnerable supply chain on our planet, because it is in fact below water. It's something that we can't really project and predict as we can, whether it's plant products or animal products that are above land. And bottom line is, as we've already said today, the UN needs to produce 50%, as estimated, we need to produce 50% more food to feed the 9 to 10 billion people by 2050. Next slide. So in addition to the supply and demand gap that exists, that's only going to increase over time, many consumers are concerned about ocean health issues and the fact that labor practices and occupational safety are certainly things that we're becoming increasingly familiar about. But very importantly, ecosystem health, the damage to our habitat, trawling of the ocean floors, the bycatch that exists, the animal suffering, that's very much an issue for many people, the inhumane slaughter and factory farming. Next slide. But of course, another big issue is personal welfare. The potential for incorporating microplastics or toxins or environmental pollutants that our own body as a result of eating fish that are contaminated. There's also issues with fraud and traceability in this industry. It could be intentional, but many times it's just unintentional. And of course, there's a variety of other issues around consistency and quality due to the tremendous variability that exists in the seafood supply chain. Next slide. Very important for women that are pregnant or nursing children as well is the issue of mercury. The US EPA and FDA have identified that there's 3 options when it comes to seafood if you are pregnant or nursing. Please avoid fish that are in a certain category. Have 1 4-ounce serving per week or 2 to 3 for another category. If in fact, when in fact we make cell-based seafood, there will be an unlimited amount of seafood that can be consumed because we're obviously making a product without mercury at all. So it really is a paradigm shift in many levels, as we describe it, healthy for people, humane for sea life, and sustainable for our planet. Next slide. So this is not necessarily not an experiment at all, but this is absolutely something that is on the commercial timetable. At Blue Nalu, we actually, last December, we did the first global demonstration of a whole muscle seafood product, demonstrating product performance the same way as conventional fish fillet in all cooking applications. And in fact, it was some of the earlier discussion was obviously about, in order to obviously introduce these sustainable products to the marketplace, they must taste great, they must perform properly. And in this situation, we actually demonstrated that a product could take any form of heat. It could take acidification as if it was in a poke, kimchi, or ceviche application, or it could be prepared in the raw state. So again, this was something that was quite a demonstration and unique globally in this space thus far. Next slide, please. So again, this category for cell-based meat, poultry, pork, and seafood products is really near term. In the case of Blue Nalu, we're actually in kind of our phase 1, phase 2 timetable right now, developing products at pilot scale, but we'll actually be launching products in a test market early next year. Next slide. And this is what large scale manufacturing looks like. Again, looks like a microbrewery manufacturing this model, 3 different species at one time. So again, it's a conventional food process that's really done differently. Next, I think it might be my final slide. And that's my contact information. So appreciate your time and thank you very much.